Good morning, friends. The subject of my talk this morning is the path of divine love. In Sanskrit, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti means divine love, a love for God. Now, in order to love God, we must have some knowledge of God, isn't it? Others, whom shall we love? In our ancient scriptures, God is mentioned as Brahman. Brahman means larger than the largest, that is infinity. So how can one love infinity? Only a mathematician may love infinity. But so when I was a teenager, I came to know about Brahman. And I thought that Brahman can never be known. It is infinity. With our finite minds, can we know infinity? Who is God? So sometimes people would say that such and such person has seen God. Then I would jokingly say, has that person seen God in a mirror? Why would I say that? Because if you write the word dog in big bold print and see its reflection, it becomes God. So I used to say that it is impossible. That is my way of telling. But later my mind changed. I started understanding things better. Then I came to know that infinity, which is also called in Sanskrit Nirguna Brahman or impersonal God. How that impersonal God become personal God, I came to know from our scriptures, or our religious philosophies. So they say that Nirguna Brahman or impersonal God appears to be a personal God to us. And what are we? Nirguna Brahman cannot be the creator or anything. The answer is given in our scriptures. Say no. Nirguna Brahman, it may seem that it cannot create, but from our point of view, Nirguna Brahman has a power. That power is called Maya, magical power. With that magical power, Nirguna Brahman has created this world, including all of us. So we are the product of Nirguna Brahman's magical power or Maya. Nirguna Brahman is like a great hypnotist. He has, with his power of hypnotism, is making all of us who are under the spell of that hypnotic power. We always see this world, but Nirguna Brahman does not see this world. In the Rig Veda, which is the ancient scripture of Hinduism, there is a hymn called Nasadeo Sukta. starts with nothing was there at the beginning. And how the world was created, that is described there. And at the end of that hymn, one sentence is there. This world, has it really been created or it has not been created? Does the Creator know it? It is a highly philosophical sentence. That is from the Creator's point of view, who has created this world like a hypnotist creating this world. And those who are under the sway of that hypnotic power, they will see this existence of this world. But will the hypnotist see it? No. From the hypnotist point of view, there is no world. Strange idea. Only I think Hinduism is capable to have such ideas accommodated in it. So, impersonal God becomes personal God. From our point of view, God, impersonal God is beyond time, space and causation. Being beyond time, that impersonal God is eternity. Being beyond time, eternity. Being beyond space, God is infinity. And beyond causation, being beyond possession, God is beyond any activity. That is Nirguna Brahman, impersonal God. But from our point of view, we are under the sway of this magical power of Brahman. So, we have our personalities. When I try to think of that impersonal divinity, our finite minds project personality on God. I have said this a few times during my different talks. Our minds are like colored eyeglasses, and each one has a different pair of colored eyeglasses. So when a person with a pair of green eyeglasses looks at the blue sky, the sky will become greenish. And if another person with a pair of red eyeglasses looks at that sky, this blue sky will look reddish. But it is the same sky which will appear to have too many different colors. Is the sky changing its color? No. Those who are thinking of the sky or those who are looking at the sky, they are responsible for those colors. So, we who are within time and possession, time and causation, the world of time and causation, when we look at impersonal God, God becomes endowed with a personality. So we project fatherhood, motherhood, and we even look upon God as child, or look upon God as friend. In some religions, such as Christianity, God is looked upon as father. So once, it was shortly after I had come to this country, America. I am posited in Seattle, a city in America, and I have been here for more than 43 years. So just after I had come, one girl came to me and said, "Swami, I have a problem." I said, "What is your problem?" He said, "I cannot look upon God as Father." Then I said, "Then look upon God as Mother." Then she said, I cannot look upon God as father or mother because both of them were mean to me. Then I said, then can you think of God as your friend? That girl was not married. Otherwise I would have said, the girl had children. Then I would say, can you look upon God as your child? But that was not possible. So I said, can you look upon God as your friend? And that girl said, okay, I will give it a try. And she left. I never saw her again. So all these ideas of personality, etc., of God, these are projections of finite human minds. So as I have said, God becomes father, mother, child, friend, etc. Now, how to love that personal God? So one may say, I have not seen that personal God, actually. How can I love that God? And I will say, be like a posthumous child. You are born after your father's death. You have not seen your father. But still you know that you had a father. You have come to know about it from your mother. And also, you may be shown a picture of your father, photograph. Then you will have some idea about God. It is not that in order to have belief in God whom you have not seen, you must have to be able to see God. Be like a posthumous child. You may not be able to see God, but still you should believe in the reliable testimony given by your mother that you had a father. So, who gives us reliable testimony? There are some people here who are extraordinary people. They are called divine incarnations. They are God in human form, so to say. Personal God in human form. So, it is they who say many things about God, and we have to accept those ideas because their testimony is reliable. And according to them, we can experience God mainly God endowed with a personality, that means personal God. We may look upon that God either as father, mother, or child, or friend. I look upon God as my parent. So I am God's child. That's my attitude. And how can I love God, whom I have not actually, suppose I have not experienced God, then how will I love that God? The scriptures say that you have in you an abundance of self-love. Every person in the world loves himself or herself most. An average person, I mean. And sometimes that love is expanded to include others. A child, a newly born child, when he starts growing, and then it first loves itself most. Then it starts growing, then it starts loving its mother, who is the supplier of food and other kinds of comfort. then the child grows more and then includes its father also within its zone of love. That's how the selfish love gradually expands to include others. So self-love, which is there in abundance in any average person, that love has to be directed to God, personal God. That is, and if it is done, then one can experience that personal God. So self-love has to be directed to God. That is the secret. There are other saints and scholars, they will speak of other paths which will lead us to God. But this path, it is called the path of devotion or love, is considered the most suitable path for this age, according to Sri Ramakrishna, a divine incarnation. And there is a woman saint named Mirabai. She was a princess of a native state of India, Mirabai. She turned out to be a great saint. And the path which helped her to experience God was the path of devotion, the path of divine love. She used to say, it is very simple. If you want to experience God or know God, it is very simple. You have to love God. Then she composed some songs also. She composed a song, it's very meaningful. It says, people understand religion in so many different ways. Referring to those ideas she's saying. There are some people who think that they have to shower 20 times a day in order to be able to experience God. They will go to all holy rivers and lakes of the world and have dips there, thinking that that sort will help them to realize God. So Mirabai says about them, Nit nahane se hari mile to jal jantu hoi. That is, if by taking showers every day, a person would experience God, then why not I become an aquatic animal? They're always immersed in God. Water, so to say. So they have not experienced God. Phalmal khakar hari mile to bahut badur badrai. That means if there are some others who think that by taking vegetarian food they will experience God. About them she is saying, if you think that by taking fruits and roots you will experience God, then there are so many bats and monkeys. Have they experienced God? No. Then she says, there are some who thinks that only taking vegetarian food will help them experience God. About them she is saying, Tiran vakan se hari mile to bahut mrigi aja. That means, if by eating vegetation only, or like grass, one would experience God, then there are so many goats and deer. Have they experienced God? No. Then there are others who think that not to have wives or not to get married, that will help them to experience God. Mirabai says that is not the way. स्त्री छोड़कर हरि मिले तो बहुत रहे खोजा. That means if not having a wife will help a person experience God, then there are so many eunuchs. Have they experienced God? They have no sex consciousness, eunuchs. Then at the end, Mirabai says, Mira kahe bina prem se na milyana lala. Mira is saying that without love of God, one will not experience God. And she experienced God by following the path of divine love. So that's it. That's why Sri Ramakrishna also said that the path of divine love is the most suitable for this age. This is the age when people are very body conscious. They love their bodies most. Let them direct that love to God. That is the idea. Okay. And so this Bhakti Yoga, through Bhakti Yoga, the lover and the beloved become one. Swami Vivekananda was a great saint of India. He once said, he gave many talks about different aspects of that religion which is called Hinduism, and he would call that Vedanta. And he used to say, Vivekananda used to say, when you talk about this divine love, he would say, let me be born again and again, and God, please be ever my God of love. He didn't want liberation. Let me be born again and again. But God, you become my God of love. A devotee of God doesn't want to be sugar, as Sri Ramakrishna put it. A devotee who doesn't want to be sugar, does not want to experience that he or she is Nirguna Brahman, impersonal divinity. No. Or even personal divinity. No. Divinity with personality. A devotee of God doesn't want to be sugar but wants to taste sugar, enjoy God. There is a parable of a weaver who had followed the path of divine love and who had experienced that God is doing everything. So one day he was sitting on the front porch of his house, and then some robbers were going to, or burglars were going to burgle a house. And one of them had fallen sick, so they forced this weaver to go with them at sword point. They didn't have guards. And he went, and those burglars entered a home and stole some valuable things and put those things in a large sack and asked this person to carry that sack. At that time, somehow the police had come to know about these burglars, and they came. And those true burglars escaped. But this weaver was found there with that sack full of stolen goods on his back. So he was taken to the police station, and then from there he was taken to the judge. So the judge asked him, "Why did you steal those things?" And some other people had come to know about this incident, and they came because they knew this weaver to be a very honest person. And they said to the judge, "No sir, he can never be a burglar." Then the burglar said, or not burglar, the weaver said to the judge, "Your Honor, by the will of God, I was sitting on the porch of my house, and by the will of God, these burglars came, and by the will of God, they forced me to go with them. By the will of God, they stole all these things, put them in a sack, and by the will of God, they put that sack on my back to carry that with them to their place. Then by the will of God, the police came and arrested me. And by the will of God, I have been brought before you." The judge could see that this person was not a criminal, and he released him. Then when after his release, he said to others who had come to see him, he said, "By the will of God, the judge has released me." Everything by the will of God. That kind of condition comes. And according to Vedanta or Hinduism, when a person dies, his physical body drops off, but his subtle body remains, and his senses and motor organs are also remain intact. And they go to some different plane of existence. Each of these, there are innumerable planes of existence, and each of these planes of existence is called a loka. That means where one could exist, live, such a plane of existence. And there are innumerable lokas. So the departed soul goes to one of these lokas depending upon the quality of the mind of the departed person. And be there. But then they have some unfulfilled desires. So those desires bring them back to this earth plane of existence. They are reborn. And being born is going through suffering also. Enjoyment and suffering, they go hand in hand. So Gautama Buddha used to say, this world is dukkha, that means suffering. What is suffering to one could be enjoyment of another. When the patients suffer from diseases, it is good for the doctors because that's how they can earn money. This is how it is. A fisherman casts his net into the lake, and when he pulls the net up, it is laden with fish, and he is very happy. But what about the fish? Will they be happy? No. It is death to them. So enjoyment and suffering, they go hand in hand. That's why you see, there are some souls that don't want to be born again. They want to be one with impersonal divinity. That infinity, eternity, and actionlessness, and bliss. They want to be that. But those who are devotees of God, they don't want that. They don't mind being born again and again, as long as they can enjoy the company of divinity. There are some devotees who, after their death, go to the abode of their chosen deity. And such abodes are called Ishtaloka. And being there, they act according to the will of God. Swami Vivekananda, according to Sri Ramakrishna, was one of those 7 sages in the other world. But as Sri Ramakrishna, who was God, wanted to incarnate, then one of the sages came down to earth to help Sri Ramakrishna spread his message, and that soul is Vivekananda. So that sage, one of those 7 sages who became Vivekananda, did not want to be one with impersonal divinity. They remained as devotees of God. And we know one example who was a devotee. Her name was Kusum. She was a relatively young woman, and she was a disciple of Subodhananda Swami of our order. And when Swami Subodhananda was in the city of Benares, alone having some spiritual practice, he was already a saint, but still he wanted to spend time in spiritual practice, and he went there. Then he became very ill because he had to bake food as the monks do in India. And he was so ill that he could not get out and beg for food or anything. There is a earthen pot of drinking water in his room, but he was so ill that he could not even get up and drink that water. At that time, he had a vivid dream, and in that dream, he saw Kusum, his initiated disciple. Kusum said that she was in the abode of Sri Ramakrishna, celestial abode. And Sri Ramakrishna said to her, Subodhananda, he used to be called Khoka by Sri Ramakrishna, said, he is ill, go to him. That's why she came. And she comforted Swami Subodhananda, and Subodhananda got better. So that's the story. It is a true story. So there are some souls that don't want liberation. They want to be in the company of divinity. So Vivekananda was one. There are many others like that. And Kusum was another, as far as we know. Sri Ramakrishna would call such people Nitya Siddha. They were born free. Sri Ramakrishna, the divine incarnation of this age, had a few such devotees who had come to him. And Vivekananda is one. And so many books have been written about this devotion to God. How through the path of devotion or love, divine love, one can experience divinity. Some sages such as Narada, Shandilya, and so on and so forth, they wrote some books also about this Bhakti Yoga, or the path of divine love. And according to that book which is called Bhakti Sutra, Aphorisms on Divine Love, that book is composed by Narada, sage Narada. There he has mentioned this devotion to God or bhakti is what? Sato asmin parama prema rupa. That means that devotion, which is called bhakti also, is the supreme love only of God, not of anything else. Supreme love only of God. That is bhakti. And many of those sages and devotees who had experienced divinity, they have said many things about this path of devotion. And they have also given the description of who is a true devotee of God. So according to them, a true devotee loves to talk about God and nothing else. They will not talk about the soccer game or cricket or all these things or politics. They will only love to talk about God. And they love to see the beauty of God also. To them, God is the most beautiful. And they love to worship God. And they love to always think of God. Always. And they love to look upon God as the parent or dearest friend, and also as child also. And they love to obey God all the time. Well, I don't feel it important, but I can tell you that my spiritual role model in life is Sri Ramakrishna. So whatever he did was an example for us to follow. So I try to follow him. And I have done it for so many years of my life. So I want to obey him all the time. So a true devotee of God also obeys God all the time. A true devotee loves to be absorbed in the thought of God also. And again, there is something. That is, a true devotee loves to enjoy the pain of separation from God. In Sanskrit, it is called viraha. Viraha. That pain, there is some joy in it also. If there is any temporary separation from the beloved, then the lover suffers some pain, intense pain. But that pain is enjoyable pain. It is called viraha. So these are some signs of true devotees of God. Okay. So let us remember all these things. If we want to follow the path of devotion or path of divine love. I have already spoken for 40 minutes, so it is time for me to end my talk. End my talk with the prayer to God. God, please give us peace. A dark cloud has come and has covered this world. The fear of some virus. God, please save us from this. And God is all powerful. God can surely do it. Let us all pray for that.